With only 2 game weeks left of the season, it is absolutely essential that we make the right transfers between now and game week 38, and is one of those going to be Ollie Watkins. We'll talk about how essential he is in today's video alongside the teams to target, the ones that might be on the beach, and my own transfer plans. So as always, if you look forward to today's video, make sure to drop a like, and of course subscribe to the channel. It's not too late. Enough waffling, let's get into today's video. So first up, a quick recap on how game week 36 went, because of course it was all about those early Man City team leaks once again. Whereas the previous game week it massively benefited my team, unfortunately this week it did actually punish me. So we had the news that both Savinho and Marmoush were bench. I owned both of those. I wasn't anticipating both of them to be out, and it kind of threw me off on the deadline live stream. I ended up selling Marmoush to Visser rather than Mateta, and then I had a decision to make. Do I bring in Rodgers, or do I try and get myself some form of Man City attack? And I felt like Southampton away was a game that I just needed some sort of attacker in, and De Bruyne for this week and next week looks great. So I ended up bringing Kevin De Bruyne as part of a -4. On reflection, maybe if I had a bit more time to think about it, I might have weighed up that the -4 would have been difficult to repay, but to be honest, I was anticipating Man City to win that game 3 or 4-0. So no real regrets on the decision. I brought in KDB for Savinho and I brought in Visser for Marmoush. Didn't pay off, but 59 points, -4, 55 all in. When you look at some of the returnees here, Martinez with the 8-pointer compared to Reyes 2, delighted with that decision. And a back 3 of Munoz with 11, Vardial with 6 and Livramento with 7. When you look at that sort of returns, you think this should be a green arrow. But of course, we got it wrong with the -4. Sarr with the 6-pointer could have been so much more for anybody that watched the highlights. Got the captaincy right with Mbeumo, but then the front line, Visser with the 1-pointer, Isak with the 2-pointer, and Mateta with the 1. Again, that could have been something with Mateta, and with a lot of managers selling him in game week 36, all we needed was some sort of attack and return, and that would have been a huge increase in the effective ownership. So ended up being a red arrow from about 50k or 49k to 52k in the world. So not an ideal position to be in, especially with only a couple of game weeks left. But I'm hoping for the final few game weeks, we can get ourselves back in that top 50k, and then we'll just see where we go from there. Let me know how you got on in the comment section, but let's now take a look at how my team's looking for game week 37. So take a look at my current team right now for game week 37. We've got 1 free transfer, 0.9 million in the bank. I would love to have 2, 3, 4, 5 transfers to go a little bit rogue in my team, especially when I'm chasing rank, but unfortunately, it is what it is, and I do think we can still make a fantastic team for game week 37 and game week 38 with just 1 free transfer. So when we just look at the team right now, I think the starting 11 is fine. We got a decision between Martinez and Raya, and I've also got Concert and Kivior. So as you can see right now, I'm completely leaning in on that Aston Villa defence. I do feel like I want to hedge against one team, and with Newcastle chasing top 5 and Arsenal not being on the beach at all, I think they're still going to have motivation to finish as good as they can in the league, but I think there is real motivation with Newcastle, and I think they're good offensively. So currently going for Aston Villa because Spurs, I anticipate to play quite a strong team against Villa, but their mindset's going to be completely on that Europa League final. So even if they are playing, I don't think they're going to be fully invested in that game. Aston Villa chasing top 5, similar to that of Newcastle. And it's really important right now to try and have as much investment in teams that have something to play for. In terms of my 3 at the back, Munoz and Sarr, I'm going to obviously bring in a midfielder there, is a problem. The reason being is we've got the FA Cup final on the Saturday, and they play Wolves on, I believe, the Tuesday. So that is not ideal, because injuries can arise in an FA Cup final. We might just see complete rotation for Glasner in this game because it's kind of a dead rubber. They don't have anything to play for. So I'm slightly concerned about my double Palace. Vardial at home against Bournemouth is fine. But the problem is, as I mentioned, they have got the FA Cup final on the Saturday. The difference is Man City are actually motivated. They got to get a top 5 finish. And by the time they play that Bournemouth game, they could be as far down as 6th in the league. So that is a slight plus side for Man City assets. And when we talk about those, De Bruyne at home against Bournemouth, a lot of people concerned about the minutes. When we look at the FA Cup teams that he's played, Grealish has been the one playing in the 10. He might back him once again in this FA Cup final, De Bruyne might come on as a substitute, and I fully anticipate him to start his last home game of the season before he leaves as a Man City player. So I think De Bruyne is good for this game, and I'm absolutely fine to hold him, and the rest of the midfield kind of picks itself. The front two's interesting because we got Isak away against Arsenal, not ideal on paper, and Vista at home against Fulham, which is good. But then Mateta on the bench, I just think there's every chance Nketiah plays this game and Mateta plays the final of the FA Cup. So I don't love the idea of starting Mateta. So the big question right now in my team is there any transfers that I can really make? And realistically, I discussed it. Aston Villa have one of the standout games against Spurs, whose attention is going to be on that Europa League final. Is there a way that I could pivot this team to try and bring in Ollie Watkins? We'll take a look, but with being triple Aston Villa, I would have to take a -4, and then I'm asking myself, how good is Ollie Watkins? So let's take a look at some plans now and teams to target. So I know Ollie Watkins right now is the most bought player going into game week 37, and that is just going to continue. He is going to be bought by a lot of managers between now and game week 37 deadline. And as soon as managers realise that Spurs have a Europa League final and Man United do, I think you look at these fixtures and think they are even better than first glance. So I want to quickly cover off the pros and cons for Ollie Watkins and whether you should buy him. So firstly, the pros. I think he's going to play 90 minutes in both. We've had that kind of like worry about Watkins when Rashford was in the squad. Rashford now injured. We also saw Watkins go off early in game week 35 for Malin, but I personally think with them chasing top 5, Emery is going to completely lean in on Watkins' experience, and he's an absolute machine, really, isn't he? So I think he's just going to play in back-to-back 90 minutes against Spurs and Man United. And as I discussed, Spurs are playing on the Friday night. They then have the Europa League final midweek. So yes, I think Spurs might play a strong team to gain some rhythm, but is there going to be any focus on this game from the players? Absolutely none. So regardless, whatever team Spurs put out, I think it's a great game for Aston Villa. And then in game week 38, yes, it's away against Man United, but they've just lost 2-0 to West Ham at home. And importantly in that game, but we need to remember, it's going to be a few days after the Europa League final. So if Man United win, there's going to be hangovers in that team. If they lose, there's going to be not the best vibe at all. There's going to be boos going out from the fans. So I think this is a great game for Ollie Watkins, and I can see them scoring plenty of goals in both of these games. As I discussed, Aston Villa top 5 motivation, that's massive. And the big thing about Watkins is, if you are taking a -4 to get there, I think you can absolutely justify putting the captaincy on him in game week 37 at home against Spurs. I think some of the key captaincy picks aren't actually standout, so I think you could cover the -4 by putting the captaincy on him, and wouldn't even put it past people going there in game week 38 if you want to. Now, I don't think there are many negatives, and I'm kind of just putting them here just to put some negatives. No Tielemans, I do think is a slight problem. That is less creativity in that team. I think Onana coming in really helps them defensively, doesn't help them offensively. But I would say I think the fixtures are so good that they don't need the creativity from Tielemans at times. I think just the runners in Watkins, the runners in Rodgers is going to hurt them enough. We saw that with the direct run-in of Crystal Palace in wide areas with Munoz and Eze driving through the central zones and Sarr. Villa have those players to hurt them, so fully expecting them to still get chances. And the other thing, as I discussed, Spurs might put a strong lineup, but I've put that in quotation marks because even if it is their best lineup, I still think Villa beat it. So if you can get to Ollie Watkins, I absolutely think you should as part of a free transfer. Now, if you've got Mateta, easy. Get him gone, bring in Watkins. If you've got Marmoush, easy move. I think Isak to Watkins is actually one that you need to think about because Isak finishes the season at home against Aston Villa. I think that's a really, really good game. Sorry, they finish the season at home against Everton. Everton, not much to play for. Newcastle will be chasing top 5. I think that's a really, really good fixture. And I do think there is a great chance that Isak could be a big scorer on the final day of the season. So just be cautious if you're looking to sell Isak to Watkins. It's great for 37. I think 38 he could do just as well as Watkins. In my position right now, of course, I can't get to Watkins unless I sell one of my Aston Villa defenders in Concert or Martinez. And for a -4, I just don't know whether I can justify it. I think I'm just going to lean in on the double Villa defence and hope for the best. As I discussed, Onana coming in does kind of help them and enhance it. So Aston Villa, the team you want to target. Watkins, the guy you want to buy. I don't think I can get him though. So I think at the back end of the season, it's more important than ever to focus on the fixtures. And I want to quickly cover this off because there's only 2 game weeks left and there's only a certain amount of transfers that managers have available. So I think we can really distill this into a few teams that you want to buy from and in which particular weeks. And we're just going to run through the list super quickly, okay? So Arsenal, I think you actually can buy 37 if you want to buy Bukayo Saka, but realistically, it's going to be game week 38. If you don't have double, Arsenal, get double. If you don't have triple, I think you can get triple. Yes, I know Southampton kept Man City to a clean sheet, but I think Arsenal will do well in that game week 38 fixture. So Arsenal for game week 38, just have a planned transfer for your teams. Everton, I just think you avoid it now. If you want to go for them for game week 37, then by all means, if you need to get a cheap defender, but you're not going to want them in game week 38, so that's very much a 1 game week punt. Bournemouth, the opposite, you want them for game week 38, so I would be having a plan in place to maybe get an Evan Nielsen in your team or someone like a Kluivert if you want to go there. I, for one, am possibly looking at doing a sideways move of maybe a Mateta to an Evan Nielsen in game week 38. West Ham, perfectly fine to buy for the next 2 weeks. Jarrod Bowen, probably the route you want to go for if that is the luxury move. Spurs, you completely avoid, but what you do need to note are the teams that are playing against Spurs. So Villa, great to buy, and Brighton are actually great to buy in the final game of the season. We've touched on Villa. Brentford, everybody went there in game week 36. I still think you can go there, but I don't love the fixtures. I think the boat for buying Brentford is probably past now. Chelsea fall under the same boat as Aston Villa, but with less confidence. Man United, similar scenario. I think they'll play a really strong team ahead of the Europa League final, but how strong is that team going to be motivated? I don't really know. And then, of course, Forest to finish the season, the big Champions League clash. I think you can go to Chelsea. I just don't know who you go for, especially with Jackson being ruled out. I don't think you buy from Liverpool now. You sell Palace as soon as you possibly can. I don't think there is any value in them from now until the end of the season. I don't think you touch Wolves. I don't think you buy Forest. I don't think you buy Man City. I think you could sell them from now onwards. Newcastle, very interesting. I think you can bench for 37. I probably would start Isak because I think you're going to want him in 38 at home against Everton. Final game of the season at home. I could see a couple of goals scored in that game. So just be cautious if you're selling Newcastle. And then Man United, I think you just get rid of those. So that's just a quick rundown of the teams. As I discussed, I think there are really teams that you just want to target, and that is going to be buying from Aston Villa. I think that's important. And then game week 38, buying from Arsenal and buying from Bournemouth. Okay, so just to finish off this video, I wanted to go through my plans between now and game week 38. I always say between now and the end of the season. Well, the end of the season is only 2 game weeks away. I can't believe it. So, as you know, for game week 37, this is how my team is looking, 0.9 million in the bank. Realistically, I don't think I need to make a transfer. Palace are a slight concern, and there is part of me, because it's a Friday deadline, if I get really scared about Crystal Palace's complete mass rotating, there's a chance I might actually go really, really boring and play Kivior instead of someone like a Sarr and just go for a back 4, which doesn't sound great, but I might go for that, which is a little bit depressing. The only thing I could consider is doing Watkins, but in order for me to get Ollie Watkins, I would have to downgrade Martinez in goal and go for a cheap goalkeeper, and then upgrade someone like a Mateta to Ollie Watkins. I haven't ruled that out as part of a -4, and if I was to do that, I would put the captaincy of Watkins just to go all in, but I think because I got burnt from a -4 the previous week, naturally I'm a little bit hesitant to do so, but I haven't ruled it out. I'll show you what that would look like in a minute. I want to just show you what my current plans are. Going into game week 38, the team would look like this, and I think it looks okay, but there are a couple of moves that I would like to make. The first one is going to be selling Kevin De Bruyne and bringing in Bukayo Saka. I just want him for Southampton away. I do think there could be a brilliant score there. And I still have one additional transfer available, and what I probably would look to do, possibly, is then sell Mateta and bring in Evan Nielsen for that Leicester at home game. It would then mean benching one of my defenders, but naturally I want 3 at the back on the final day of the season. And I probably would bench Konsa, but I also like the idea of having Aston Villa defence, so that'll be something to stew over closer to that deadline. But that is how the team would look for game week 38, which I think is perfectly fine. I could take a -4 if I really want to chase something, but I think all in all, I'll be happy with that team, and it means I'm not taking a points hit. Now, just to show you what my team would look like if we were to go down the Ollie Watkins route and really go a bit different. So in game week 37, I would have to sell Mateta because I still think Isak offers value, and bring in Ollie Watkins. And then I would have to take a goalkeeper transfer, which is never ideal, and bring somebody in at 4.5 million. Now, do I think there's anybody at 4.5 million that really offers value? I personally don't think so, but let's say just for budget's sake, we bring in Mark Flecken as part of a -4. I could play him at home against Fulham, but the team would then look like this. Captaincy on Ollie Watkins. Rodgers obviously would come in. Well, might not even come in now, which feels a bit weird then doing that, because then I'm benching Rodgers effectively. And then in game week 38, the team would look like this with Ollie Watkins in the team, which looks fantastic, but I also don't think I need it. Like, I would love to have Evan Nielsen in the team, but then I look at that front three and think, well, I'm not selling any of those now. So Watkins is great, but as part of a -4, I think I could just get to an equally good team with the first strategy that I showed you. So right now, unfortunately, I think I'm going to avoid Ollie Watkins. I think I'm just going to go down the route of rolling my transfer and then bringing in Evan Nielsen and Saka on the final day of the season. Yes, guys, okay, that's going to wrap up today's video looking at my Game Week 37 transfer plans. Of course, it is a Friday deadline, so I will be bringing you the players to buy and avoid probably tomorrow, and my team selection on Thursday. So as always, if you haven't already, make sure you are subscribed to the channel and drop a like on this video. Any questions, pop them in the comments. I'll be sure to get to them. Have a great day. Take care. I'll see you real soon. Cheers.